good.
Go to it.
Good evening, and welcome to the Sewer Informational Webinar. I'm Nick Lawler, General Manager of Littleton Electric Light and Water Departments. Thank you for joining us this evening. We organized this forum to update the community on our work regarding the sewer project. Work completed by the Water Department in collaboration with other town officials as part of a sewer working group. It was an honor for the Water Department to be given this project and allowed to run with it since last fall town meeting. A project that's been identified as a crucial project for the town through their master plan. And we're excited with the work that we've completed over the past 12 months, building upon all the great work already completed previously by the Select Board. The goal of tonight's forum is to update the community in Article 11 to be presented at fall town meeting this coming weekend. However, we also realize and appreciate that you may have bigger picture questions or other questions as it relates to Littleton Smart Sewer Project. And this is an opportunity for you all to ask those questions. I'm joined today by Dave Ketchen, our Assistant General Manager, who will present to you further the issues in our plans. If you have questions afterwards, we ask that you either use the question and answer feature on Zoom or email us at info@lelwd.com. Dave and I will answer questions after his presentation. We'll also provide written answers to the questions and post them on our webpage that we have dedicated to this very project, lelwd.com/sewer-department. On this page, you'll find more information about the sewer project, specifically work completed by the sewer working group and CDM Smith, the consultant engineers. Now I'll turn this over to Dave Ketchen for his presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick, and welcome everyone. Bear with me 1 minute while I share my screen. Okay, Corey, want to give me a thumbs up that you can see the presentation? Awesome. All right, I'll get started. So here's a quick overview of the presentation. I'm going to describe the upcoming town meeting, Article 11, to fund the construction and design of the discharge site, describe from a high level how we got here, and then discuss future steps. As Nick stated, we will answer questions at the end of the presentation. So please submit questions using the Q&A feature on Zoom or submit them to info@lelwd.com. To use the Zoom Q&A feature, make sure to push the QA button on the bottom of your screen on Zoom, raise your hand virtually, and type out your question. Please also write your name and address along with any question that you type. Questions will be accepted at the end of the presentation, and Nick and I will answer them. Article 11 at special town meeting would authorize the sewer division to design, permit, and construct a 175,000 gallon per day discharge site at the Littleton High School fields. This discharge site upgrade would be a large enough site to support sewer in the most environmentally and economically in need areas in Littleton. But how and why is the Board of Water Commissioners asking for this now? Last October, Littleton residents voted to change control of the sewer division from the Select Board to the Board of Water Commissioners. To that point, the Select Board had worked countless hours trying to develop a solution that would fit for the town. Residents also authorized the Select Board and Board of Water Commissioners to select and purchase land for a sewer treatment facility. I'll go into that in more detail regarding the siting selection later in the presentation. So after the sewer division was transferred to the Board of Water Commissioners, their first step was to determine what work had previously been completed and to what extent. We decided to contract CDM Smith to conduct a peer review of key sewer efforts completed to date. CDM Smith was tasked to analyze the completed hydrogeo report, the siting analysis, and the financial analysis. As a result of the peer review, CDM Smith recommended that LWD perform a slug test of the existing discharge site. CDM Smith also recommended that LWD define the purpose of the town sewer. They recommended that LWD perform a needs assessment to help define the best plan to move forward for sewer in the town. The needs assessment would include a new siting analysis and a detailed estimate of different sewering options. With that information, the Board of Water Commissioners assembled a sewer working group to assist the progress of the sewer needs assessment. The group includes LWD and town employees, 2 water commissioners, a select board member, and town resident George Sanders. The goal of this group is to work with CDM Smith to capture all of the town's goals within the sewer project. This group then will update and make recommendations to the Board of Water Commissioners. Now, I won't go into much detail, technical detail, I should say, on the needs assessment today, but these were the main tasks that CDM Smith was tasked with completing. CDM Smith wanted to analyze Littleton holistically to ensure Littleton would be getting the correct sewer system to fit its needs. I'd encourage everyone to go to LCTV to watch previous Watson Drops episodes that go into depth on each of the different tasks that have been completed to date. Also, all finalized sections of the needs assessment and most up-to-date information can be found at LELWD.com. So one part of the needs assessment was for CDM Smith to analyze the water quality data in Littleton to determine the primary areas of concern based on the water quality. The highest ranking areas of concern had the most checks on the reasons for inclusion. So as you can see, the Beaver Brook area was extremely high on the list, including the common area. Next, CDM Smith also analyzed the most economically beneficial areas in Littleton that could benefit from a sewer system. CDM Smith met with Littleton Town Planner Marion Toohill to make sure that the goals of the Littleton Master Plan and Form-Based Code were captured. At this particular time, IBM is not interested in town sewer. However, LWD plans to continue having the discussions with them. Hopefully, we could progress those in the future. So this slide quantifies the areas of concern. Each area of concern was then analyzed by the sewer working group and CDM Smith to help determine phasing of the sewer system moving forward. As you can see, each different category has a weight to it. There's a detailed description of this section 4 on our website. And as you can see, the different weights here. So zone 2 had a rating of 10 versus the economic planning, which had a rating of 50. So clearly that was the highest weighted factor in this. And the section 4 goes into complete detail. CDM Smith provided a siting analysis of every parcel in Littleton. Here's a map showing the different parcels that were acceptable sites based on CDM Smith's criteria. Sites in green are most favorable. This is also further explained in section 7 of the needs assessment on our website, which was actually finalized just today and posted today. So CDM Smith whittled down the list using the various filters and then ranked each site by feasibility. So this is the list that CDM Smith whittled down to. So it's their short list of 30 different addresses that were further analyzed by the sewer working group. And the sewer working group was able to analyze each different address and basically whittle the list down even further, down to 3 favorable sites that we'd like to pursue. So those 3 sites were 169 King Street, 242 King Street, and then parcels U5, 2-1 and 2-3 on Great Road, which is out by Cooper Farm. So we can get into further discussion regarding the siting analysis during the questions if people have questions, but like I said, section 7 really details how each criteria was selected and how sites were eliminated and how this list was formalized. So next, the phasing plan of the sewer system was developed through the ranking process as seen in previous slides. There are 4 total phases planned that would all fit within this site. 4 different scenarios are now being analyzed, including a centralized water treatment plant, a decentralized water treatment plant, a centralized community water and energy resource center, or QUERC, as everyone else knows that as, and a regional tie-in with the town of Air. So these scenarios and estimated costs for a full build-out are included actually in section 8 of the needs assessment, which is also on our website, and we can go into further detail later on in this presentation if people would like. So the regional option, we actually analyzed and eliminated from consideration due to its costs that we would have to put into Air, plus we would be losing the discharge water into a different aquifer that wouldn't recharge our water here in town. So those are 2 of the major reasons why that was crossed off the list. So later on, I can open this map up in a larger PDF view that we can further analyze. So this slide is the estimated wastewater flows broken down by phase. So as you can see, the total project and total of each phase is that 175,000 gallons per day, which coincides with the discharge capacity size that we're asking for at this town meeting. And as you can clearly see, phase 1A, which on this map is actually the yellow area here, the common area, is the largest projected wastewater flows. And once I open up the PDF, we can go into further detail on that as well. So before CDM Smith, Weston and Sampson explored upgrading the existing discharge site with the select board a few years ago, and it was determined that the high school field remains and is the best location moving forward for a discharge site in town. So part of our peer review with CDM Smith was to verify their findings and verify that moving forward with this site was the correct thing to do. And CDM Smith confirmed this and basically confirmed Weston and Sampson's findings of that analysis. Another thing I should mention on this is that prior to the transfer from the select board to the Board of Water Commissioners, the town was able to work with Mass DEP to get this exact location approved for a discharge site at the 175,000 gallons per day capacity. So getting back to Article 11. So at special town meeting, Article 11 would authorize the sewer division to design, permit, and construct the 175,000 gallon per day discharge site at the Littleton High School field. The discharge site upgrade would be large enough to support sewing the most environmentally and economically in need of areas, as I stated, in Littleton. So that's kind of the gist of that article, which we can get into further detail later. But let me open up the PDF as well. Okay. So this is a PDF, and I hope everyone can still see my screen. This is the PDF of the phasing plan here. So as you can see, it's broken up into phase 1A, 1B, 2, 3, and 4.
You cannot see your PDF file. We're seeing the green monster. There you go.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, this is broken up into technically 4 different phases. So 1A, 1B, 2, 3, and 4. So our mission right now really is to focus on phases 1A and 1B, which would sewer the common area and be most in line with form-based code and Littleton master plan. The way CDM Smith analyzed Littleton, they also found these other areas that could really benefit from sewer. all of these phases wouldn't have to be implemented at once, but they wanted us to have a plan moving forward. You know, if it was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, we know now what the sewer could benefit in town in Littleton here. So, and this is just the flows again. So here's the siting analysis expanded. So as I said, the darker green areas were the most favorable sites, and the sites that I listed that we were viewing was the 169 King Street, which my cursor is over right here. It's right next to 495. 242 King Street, which is on the other side of King Street and also adjacent to 495. And then this site over here off of Great Road, which is across from Cooper Farm. So those are the three sites that we're further exploring with the town assessor. Moving on. So this is a larger map of the Article 11 area. So as you can see, this red box explains where the existing discharge site is. And then this blue box is where Weston and Sampson had proposed the new discharge site to go. Now, obviously, we haven't gotten funding for design or construction yet. So I can't 100% confirm this exact location. But I'm almost certain that's where we would look at going from there. So I'll jump right back into my presentation, and then we can open up for questions. Okay, so the future steps. Oh, I just closed out of it. Sorry about that. 1 second. Okay, so the future steps would be to further analyze the final sewer needs assessment, then educate the residents of the needs assessment findings. We'd like to determine the best location for the wastewater reclamation plant, and then potentially be ready to propose a design and construction funding article for the spring 2021 town meeting. So that concludes my presentation. So I'll open it up to questions, and we have Corey Godfrey, who will be answering questions or asking questions, relaying the questions to us.
All right, Dave. Let's see, we've got a couple of questions coming in here. First one is, will the discharge site smell bad? What will it look like? This person lives next to that site and is concerned about quality of life and property values.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks, Dave, for the presentation. You know, that's a question that we've heard loud and clear from the residents, specifically from that area, really from the beginning of this project. It's something that the sewer working group and the Board of Commissioners have taken into consideration over the past 12 months as this project's kind of unfolded. The discharge site itself is something that's underground, so there's no smell to that. It's really just a large leach field. I think what might be an odor issue now, I'm not really sure about this, but I know there have been complaints, is there is an existing treatment plant at the high school. And any future plans that we have, at least as of now, have us building a centralized plant off the high school on those 3 parcels of land that Dave had mentioned. So the discharge site's underground construction project that will have no long-term view effects, no long-term smell effects to the high school, to any of the residents around the high school.
All right. Another question coming in here. What will construction of the infiltration gallery look like at the high school? How long will it take? What protections against dust, noise, etc., will be afforded to the school occupants and the others?
Yeah, another great question. I'm not really sure how to answer that yet. We haven't started design, but we're neighbors to the same project. I think this is in reference to as well. And again, we've heard the residents speak loud and clear about the dust controls from there. When we get into design, that's something that I know our board will ensure that the employees here in the design team take into effect to make sure that construction's done during a normal time schedule, and that all dust mitigations are in place before we move forward. I mean, it is an excavation project. It's not a mining project like down the street. So there will be exposure to moving materials. So we'll make sure that's taken care of through the design process.
Okay. Another one here. Is the discharge site useful without building out the rest of the sewer system?
Yeah, I mean, we think it's very useful. We have, I don't necessarily want to call it a master plan, but that's what the sewer work group has called it, on what the sewering needs of the community are. And over the next however many years it is, at some point this community is going to be grappling and dealing with the situation. We hope it's, we're hoping to bring a plan forward next spring. We hope that's the time that we start building it out. But if the community decides in the spring that they don't want to build it out, the discharge site is still a needed piece of the puzzle, that no matter when the community decides it's the timing it's right to move forward this project, it's a good thing to have done. The other thing that's important to mention is that the MassWorks grant piece is gone after this year if we don't start moving forward with it. The MassWorks folks have been very kind to us. They've extended the schedule a few times. This was something I was supposed to start. I forget now. It's probably, I don't remember. Anthony Osadi did it, and he was involved with the original MassWorks grant. It must have been 18 months ago. That timeline was supposed to start. And they've worked with us and allowed us to kind of slow the project down to get a better understanding of what the next steps are. But at some point, they're trying to balance their budgets as well from the Commonwealth as to where all these monies are going, because we're not the only folks looking for MassWorks grants. So they're still supportive of it, but they want to see this project kind of start moving forward. So that's another important reason why we decided to move on this project, at least that piece of the project now.
Another question just came in. I think you partially answered it just there, but I'll read it off anyway. From a process standpoint, why is the funding request up now for the discharge site before approval of the design and construction of the full system? Why would the funding for the discharge site not be included with the full project?
Yeah, I kind of lost you, Corey, but I think I got the gist of the question. And I think I touched upon it in the last question, but the main pieces are, we're going to lose the MassWorks grant, $1.5 million, which is a large piece of the cost of the discharge site. So that's one. But the other piece is that we feel that the discharge site needs to happen, and then no matter how we decide we're going to sewer whatever parts of the community need to be sewered, that discharge site doesn't really change. It's a fixed piece of the design.
Okay. Another question here is, how much will it cost to just sewer the common?
Yeah, so when we took this project over, we weren't necessarily told by the community or the select board to look at a master plan and try to figure out what parts of town need to be sewered. That's what we did. But we never lost focus of what we were really charged to do, which was sewer the common. We do have those numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head to be exact. They're on the website, but it was in the $35 million price range to sewer completely the common. which is in line with the numbers that Weston and Sampson, the select board, had presented in the past. There's contingencies in there. There's a lot of things that still aren't determined yet with, the design. So those numbers could obviously change, but those are the probable cost numbers that have been given to us.
Okay, another one is, how much money has been appropriated to date and how much has been spent?
Okay, you're gonna make me pull up my notes now, huh? Dave, do you have that in front of you?
I do. 1 second. All right, so let me just make sure. So to date, this is including 2 transfers from, one transfer from 2016, one from 2017, from the overlay surplus to the Littleton Common Sewer Strategic Plan. It includes the $2.2 million that was approved for design and engineering of the Littleton Common Sewer area, and then the $1.6 million appropriated for the purchase of the land. So all in, it's $4,252,000 has been appropriated to date, and then approximately $675,000 has been spent to date. So there is unspent money that could cover costs as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to know a lot of that money was done through feasibility. I think just over $400,000 was spent Weston and Sampson on feasibility and the beginning part of the design. The 1.6 for acquisition of a site, to us, that's something that we have to work through the whole entire design process before we act on that. There's no sense in us acquiring a parcel of land for a site if the town doesn't approve the project to move forward. And I think we spent with CDM Smith just over $200,000 trying to do the needs assessment and figure out really what the best path forward is for a project.
Right. Another question was, will the high school field be finished with grass?
I don't think that's really necessarily a question for us. As part of our plans would be to return the high school to the current conditions. But I think it's more of a question for the school committee and the people that are involved with that.
Okay.
Let me answer the question a different way, maybe. The ask of Article 11 for funding has nothing to do with turf fields. Maybe that's a better answer.
Let's see. A couple more just came in. Can you speak as to how the boundaries of the areas were determined? As a property owner with my home just outside of the designated Beaverbrook Phase 1B area and seeing the results of the testing from this area, I'd like to better understand the boundaries.
Yeah, Dave or Corey, you might have a better shot answering that one.
Want me to go, or you, Corey?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So if you dig into the CDM report, it goes through in detail exactly how the boundaries were defined, but it's essentially based on overlaying things like the Zone 2 Aquifer Protection Area, areas with that are economic development areas, so the areas that were identified in the master plan, things like that. So overlaying multiple layers that way, and then seeing where they intersect and sort of determining the boundaries in that way. Make sure that we're focusing the sewering on the areas that are most in need in terms of environmental needs and economic needs.
I'd like to add to that, Corey, that the boundaries in Section 4, I'd say it's CDM Smith's recommendation to us. I'd say they're also not set in stone. If there's people such as yourself that want to join on to the sewer system, I'm pretty sure that'd be feasible for us to do.
Yeah, that'd be a determination made by the Board of Commissioners, so that's definitely possible.
Another one was, where do the remaining funds go if this is not approved to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, the funds were very specific town meeting articles. So if projects, the prior authorizations, if the project doesn't move forward, there'd probably be a future town meeting article to rescind the authorization. But, I hope we're not at that point yet. They can't be spent on other things, to answer the question.
Another question is, when can I expect to see another funding article for design and construction?
Yeah, it's our hope. We feel like we're pretty close to wrapping up the needs assessment. Which will start to figure out then what the design criteria is going to be. So we're hoping to have a full plan in front of Springtown meeting 2021. We also appreciate the impact to the residents that this has, which is why we didn't bring a full water authorization forward here in the fall, because we think we have a lot of outreach that needs to happen, a lot of questions that need to be answered, a lot of input that needs to be solicited to make sure we bring forward a plan that ultimately the town can accept at town meeting. We don't look at $35 million lightly. We know it's a big ask for the community. We know that the municipal departments are connected to the existing sewer system and whatever we propose moving forward. So we understand that this does have an impact on taxes. Because the town buildings are connected and are users. So to say that the users will pay for it is great, but the town is also a user. So we understand that. We need to bring forward a plan that works.
All right, the last question we have so far is, will you purchase a site without approved funding for design and construction of the sewer system?
Yeah, I mean, I think the furthest we would get, as Dave kind of mentioned it, we have 3 sites. We feel like we have three really good sites and have had 3 good conversations with property owners as far as moving forward. But the first step is getting that appraisal. I think Dave mentioned working with the town assessor, but that what I think we meant to say was we have an appraiser that's working on the value of those properties. Then we can determine which one makes the most sense to site it. And then I'm sure we would negotiate a purchase and sale, but that purchase and sale would be contingent on, the full funding of a project. We don't, like I said before, we're not necessarily looking to buy a parcel of land without having a project to move forward with.
Another question asks if there's a location in town for I assume for the sewer treatment plant that would not impact residents. It's kind of a tough one to answer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think our 3 sites that we have aren't overly impactful to residents. That was part of the site screening that we went through to make sure we found a parcel of land that wasn't impactful. It's a residential town, so it is going to be near some residents. But I think the other piece of the puzzle that Dave mentioned actually in the beginning as well was that before this was being pitched as a quirk, the Water Resource Energy Center, and that's been foregone. The financial analysis shows that a quirk doesn't necessarily work for our community. It might work for other communities, but for the amount of flows and for what we're trying to do, a quirk doesn't necessarily make sense. That's not something that we're looking to move forward with. Bruce Trumbull, who is a commissioner of Light and Water Department, is in the business, and he is the biggest advocate for the residents to ensure that this thing doesn't have odor problems. And he had questions from the beginning with the quirk, and whether or not the odor can be controlled and contained. This plan is going to have all the odor controls that we can think of to make sure that it doesn't impact residents. And we're trying to stick with technologies that'll help us control those odors.
Okay. I think that might be just about it for questions, unless anyone has a last one they want to throw in there. There's one, it says in the peer report provided by CDM, section 4 addressed the financial plan. Section 4.2 has some very good summary comments. When and how will those comments be addressed, and can we speak to any of them here? Not sure if-
So
go ahead, Dave.
section 4 is the areas of concern. I'm not sure if that's what the question is referring to, but it table 4.2 goes through the different matrix criteria.
No, Dave, I think he's referring to the peer review report, not the needs assessment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can pull it up. I don't remember what those specifically what those comments and questions were. I will say that we are just wrapping up now the financial analysis with CDM Smith that probably further addresses those comments. So that data is up on our website, I believe, as of this morning. And, we're still kind of trying to figure out the financial concerns that were addressed. I can say surely that the financial data presented to us by CDM Smith is legitimate financial information, and it's something that we still need to work through and try to figure out how does this project work financially, the bigger part of the project, not necessarily the leaching field, but the building of a plant and a collection system and that part of it. There were a lot of good concerns raised in that peer review that kind of led us to the needs assessment. The original financial analysis definitely had some holes in it that needed to be further vetted out, and that's what we did. And we just got that data, I believe, was end of last week, so we're still kind of digesting that. But we did put it up for public consumption on our website because we felt that it was very important for the public to see that data.
Yeah, Nick. So to add to that, so the section 4.1.2, which I think he's referring to, talks about how CDM Smith found a few different funding sources that they weren't so 100% sure if they could be included in the development of our sewer system. And basically, as Nick stated, CDM Smith's not going to count on those extra fundings or grant money moving forward. So we know the real cost. And then if there are opportunities for us to get state funding for this project, obviously we'll pursue those options.
Yeah, we our financial models that we built out with CDM Smith assumed, one of them assumed no grants, no bonds, no free money basically. And I know that some of the monies that Weston and Sampson had, for instance, was the Clean Energy Trust monies, which we don't even qualify for. So some of them were very easy to toss. Some might have made sense, but we just didn't feel like you should ever be building a financial model hoping for grants, and you'll see in CDM's report that our financial model assumes 0 grants.
I want to clarify one other thing. I saw a question that just came through about this being built next to people's homes. So this is an underground facility that's supposed to be odorless. This isn't the actual wastewater treatment plant. So I don't know if that clarifies anything for anyone in the audience, but If you have any further questions, please ask.
Yeah, one thing to mention there too, I think, Dave, is just that there is an existing discharge site at the high school, which does not have any odor associated with it, and neither would the new one. Any potential odors that have been noticed at the high school are more associated with the existing treatment plant there as opposed to the discharge site itself. And as Nick mentioned earlier, the new treatment plant would not be located at the high school. A couple more came in. Let's see. Will the proposed discharge site have the ability to scale up beyond the 175,000 gallons per day projected for the total 5? I think he means 4 phases.
Yeah, I mean, the total projected flow was the 175. So we don't think that it'll need to be scaled up. That it's going to take us time to get there anyway. But the answer is yes, it can be expanded upon. The Weston and Sampson modeling of the site itself, I forget the exact number it was good to, but it was probably good for maybe 240,000 gallons per day. And DEP in their permit approval even mentioned that, as you start to get closer to this, they might be able to increase the permit size. I just don't think that's any time in the near future that we'll be faced with that problem. But the good news is that the discharge site did support the projected full build out of all 4 phases of what CDM determined areas of concern that should be sewered in Littleton.
Okay. That's all we have for questions.
Right, and I'm sure, there's a lot of information out there. If any questions come up at any point in time, feel free to reach out to myself, Corey, or Dave Ketchen. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions from now until the spring and anytime thereafter.
We did have one last question come in. How long will this take to construct, and how long will residents be impacted with the construction?
Yeah, Corey, do you have an idea on that one?
Well, I'm not sure if they're referring to the discharge site only or the full project, but
Yeah, I think they're referring to the discharge site.
yeah. So I mean, if I had to take a guess, I'd say 18 months or something in that time frame, potentially less. We haven't gotten into the design portion of it yet, and that's kind of where we'd start to lay out a proposed construction schedule and that sort of thing. So more details on that would be forthcoming, I think.
And as far as impact to the residents, I'd add that we'd follow all of the town's ordinances and guidelines for construction and noise. I know that's an issue in that area as well.
Yeah, and I think we could even go above and beyond. Our board is committed time and time again to work with our neighbors. They're very thankful of our neighbors. So if there's concerns as this project unfolds, please feel free to let my board know, myself, or whoever you're comfortable with, to make sure that we address your concerns before the project starts.
Someone asked to clarify if it will take 18 months to construct. I'm just throwing out a ballpark number, worst case scenario. I'm thinking for the discharge site, it might be significantly less than 18 months
Yeah,
for the discharge site.
that sounds high, Corey. We should ask CDM Smith that. We should have that answer before
Right.
town meeting.
Construction of the entire system obviously would take significantly longer than that, as far as the treatment plant and the collection system.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. We'll get clarified. And when we post the answers to these questions, we'll make sure that the answers have that clarified answer in it.
And then another one was, do we have a rough idea of when construction would start?
No. No, there's still a lot of, we got to design the entire site. And we have to work with the school as well. We don't want to disrupt school activities. So I would be shooting for the summer. So I think that would time well with the school schedule. But we haven't spoken with them yet as far as what would work best for them. And they'd probably want to know how long the project's going to take before we can even have that conversation. So But yeah, we still have a lot of collaboration to do before we get to a point of when do we think it would start.
One other thing before we sign off, I'd like to add in, obviously, as this sewer project progresses, please continue to check our website. We try and keep the most up-to-date information on the sewer page there. We'll still be working with LCTV on Watson Drops episodes. We'll be doing community outreach, I'm sure, moving forward as well. So everyone that's here tonight, please continue to stay informed. And like Nick said, if you have any questions, reach out to us. If the discharge site were to move forward, we'd obviously keep residents up to date with the latest progress on that via our website, probably Facebook at that time, and different board meetings.
Yeah, and if the discharge site is approved at town meeting, we'd love to do more of these forums, more community resident meetings that make sure we address all the concerns before we get too far with design and too far with construction. So, we look forward to working with everybody as we move closer to starting this project. And a couple, I'd like to thank, LCTV did a great job as always, helping us get the message out. The select board gave us a weekly slot at their regular meetings to update them on as well. So thanks to select board, LCTV, and the board of commissioners for supporting us in this project moving it forward. Anything else, Dave?
No, I'd just like to thank everyone as well. And again, if anyone has any questions, don't feel free to reach out to us at any time.